I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And here we are. This episode is a bonus episode coming to you midweek to give you my thoughts and my predictions on the 2025 Golden Globe nominations. They're going to be coming out next Monday, so going to be excited to see what happens. This is our first big award show. It's not that indicative of what will help nominate for the Oscars, but in recent years the Globes have been a little bit more in line with what the Oscars will do, although they'll have some fun nominations as well. And I always do think it is still a fun show, particularly when so many of the celebrities still decide to join and show up for the show. So gonna have some fun on this one. As always, I appreciate if you can give your own comments and your own predictions in the comments down below. You may not have your Golden Globes ready just yet, so maybe you can just give your thoughts on some of my prediction or ask lots of questions. That's always an option too. And as always, you would always check the description below for timestamps, so you can jump around and hear my thoughts on specific categories. This is going to be a little bit more of a less in-depth video. It's not going to be 2 hours long going in-depth of each category and my predictions. We're going to kind of fly through a lot of these picks. Not really give a lot of possible contenders, but more so give reasons why I went with a movie or a certain performance over another. And I ask you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss videos like this. We always have one on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. You can set your watch to that for the most part. We expect that to happen. But, like, for example, this week we had this, bonus episode. A couple weeks ago we had a bonus episode. I know this upcoming Monday, I don't think we're going to release a video because that will be a little bit late because I'm going to give my reactions to the Golden Globe nominations. So that may be maybe later on in Monday or maybe Tuesday morning. So it's always just best to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these videos. But with that out of the way, let me give my predictions here on all of the film categories for the 2025 Golden Globes in terms of nominations. Starting off with the Best Film Drama category, I have Conclave, The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Sing Sing, A Complete Unknown, and Nickel Boys. So those first four really are, I think, likely Best Picture nominees, so I expect them to get nominated at the Golden Globes. Then I went with A Complete Unknown because the Globes have been a lot more favorable to music-based movies. They really loved Elvis. That got in for drama. It, got in for, Baz Luhrmann and director. Bohemian Rhapsody won in film drama back in 2018, so they definitely like it. Then with my fifth pick, I went with Nickel Boys. And I went with Nickel Boys because I went through and tried to figure out, were there any sole film drama nominees? That is, was there any one movie that got nominated for film drama and nothing else? Because a lot of the contenders, Gladiator 2, Blitz, there could be a situation even with something like Nickel Boys where it only gets one nomination and it's Best Film Drama. So I wanted to make sure that that influenced my predictions. And I went back, and it's only happened once in the 21st century, where a movie was nominated for Best Film Drama and then got no other nominees. That was The Great Debaters in 2007. And that year, they actually had 7 nominees for Best Film Drama. So this could be the first year where we see a movie get nominated for Best Film Drama, but I'm not betting on that. Ultimately, what that means for us is if you're picking a movie like Gladiator 2 in this slot, then definitely include Denzel Washington in for your supporting actor predictions. If you're including Blitz, maybe include Steve McQueen for director, or maybe include Saoirse Ronan. I ultimately went with Nickel Boys because I don't think Gladiator 2, while Ridley has done well with the Globes in the past, I don't think it's a critics kind of a movie or an awards movie. It's more of a populist box office movie. So I didn't want to go with that. Then I didn't want to go with Blitz because I think the arrow is pointing down. It's really had a muted response in theaters, but also on Apple TV Plus, and then also even just celebrated by critics. And I don't know if Saoirse Ronan's going to get in. I don't think Steve McQueen's going to get in for director. So ultimately I went with Nickel Boys, and I'm going to pair this up later on with the Best Supporting Actress nomination for Ingenue Ellis-Taylor. That way we avoid the kind of sole nominee rule. But if you think Nickel Boys goes in here, but then you don't have Ingenue Ellis-Taylor in for Supporting Actress, or you don't have Rommel Ross in for Best Director, I would seriously consider that. Because whatever movie you do end up picking, make sure it has at least one other nomination. It's only happened one other time when that didn't happen, and that was 2007, The Great Debaters, only one other time in the 21st century. Definitely want to kind of stick in line with the trends and not go with such an outlier like that. Then in my Best Actor Drama category, I have Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Adrien Brody for The Brutalist, Timothee Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig in Queer, and Colman Domingo in Sing Sing, and Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. Pretty self-explanatory here. I would say the first 5 nominees there are all probably our lineup for Best Actor at the Oscars. I'll expect them to get nominated. And then the final one, I just ultimately went with Sebastian Stan because I thought he was a stronger contender in terms of John David Washington in The Piano Lesson, or maybe Kingsley Ben-Adir in Bob Marley One Love. I don't love the pick. I think The Apprentice is still ultimately underseen. That being said, it was still a Cannes release. It still was a fall release as well, so it's still top of mind versus a movie like Bob Marley. And I do think there's going to be an appreciation to Stan, who has a transformative performance in this movie, playing someone that everyone knows. I also think that they're going to be seeing him in A Different Man, so there'll be a general appreciation for Sebastian Stan and his range to give him the nomination. More of a traditional, showy, transformative role that the Globes usually like in a biopic. Then the Best Actress Drama category, my picks are Angelina Jolie for Maria, Nicole Kidman for Babygirl, Saoirse Ronan for The Outrun, Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths, Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, and Kate Winslet for Lee. This was a tough category, really. Multiple options to choose from. My first two predictions I'm pretty confident will get in for Angelina Jolie and Nicole Kidman, just because I think both those performances can definitely get in for Best Actress at the Oscars. And they like both of those people. They really love Angelina Jolie and Nicole Kidman, nominating them multiple times at the Golden Globes when they didn't get nominated at the Oscars. So confident in those. Then I had Saoirse Ronan in The Outrun, just because this isn't a subtle performance, and usually the Golden Globes don't like subtle performances. They like the bigger, showy performances, and Saoirse Ronan really just gives her all in this story about, an alcoholic trying to get her life back together. So I think there's going to be appreciation for Saoirse, and I still think that this movie, while it wasn't well celebrated as a movie, her performance in particular was well seen, and it came out, a month or so ago, so we expect a large percentage of the voting body to have seen this movie. Then I have Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths, a festival movie. Mike Lee's still a established auteur. She gives a fantastic performance. It is a kind of a enjoyable, cantankerous type of a grouch performance. And we're also starting to see with something like Gotham or the New York Film Critics Society, or just general critics releases, that this is seen as one of the best performances by critics. That will always be, a part of consideration, I think, for the Oscars. So I think that makes her case there. Then I went with Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. I think that because the Golden Globes have less categories, unlike the Oscars, a lot of Oscar voters have to watch a lot of movies to see if, Suicide Squad had the best makeup, let's say, of the year, if they're voting on every category. Whereas Golden Globes voters, they have less categories, so they have less things to watch. So I think the fact that I'm Still Here is getting nominated likely in Best Film Not in the English Language. I think the fact that they're going to be seeing that movie and probably nominating in that category means that they're going to be seeing the movie. And if you've seen I'm Still Here, you know that it really is a powerhouse performance from Fernanda Torres. I think most people coming out of that movie go, wow, she's really fantastic. Has a pretty good distributor here too in Sony Pictures Classics. So, and also we've seen, the Globes have been a little bit more okay with nominating foreign performances, like Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall last year, or even surprises like Alma Poitsti for Fallen Leaves last year, or the year before that, Dolly de Leon gets nominated for Triangle of Sadness. These were kind of surprise nominations for Dolly, for Alma, so I wouldn't be shocked if we saw maybe another surprise nomination for a really great performance in an international movie, in this case, I'm Still Here. And then my final prediction, I went with my boldest one yet, which was Kate Winslet in Lee. And ultimately went with that because I think they really like Kate Winslet, and we've seen that. She's been nominated for performances like Carnage or Labor Day, which don't get nominated at the Oscars, but do get nominated at the Golden Globes. She actually won in 2015 with Steve Jobs, even though she only got nominated at the Oscars for that movie. This movie premiered at TIFF last year. She's been campaigning for this movie really all across LA, and really since last year. I think it's a classic kind of a Globes performance of a famous, glamorous movie star kind of being a little bit more of a realistic person and not being glamorous and not being famous. And then when you interview her, of course, she's the classic, fantastic Kate Winslet. Kind of a similar situation where like Rosamund Pike got nominated for A Private War, which is a very similar type of a role. I think the Globes will appreciate the glamorous movie star kind of being this war-torn photographer. And I think the fact that Kate Winslet really feels a connection to this movie and wants to campaign for this movie, that will help the Globes feel like they want to reward her in that sense. And then some of the other potential nominees, Tilda Swinton or Julianne Moore. I couldn't decide between either one of them. I don't know if Golden Globes voters will prefer one or the other. And then someone like Pamela Anderson could get in because she has that great kind of comeback narrative, but that comeback narrative is really stronger with someone like a Demi Moore, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. So I think right now the one that kind of surges through is just for their appreciation for Kate Winslet as a movie star. Then the best film, comedy, or musical category, I have Anora, Emilia Pérez, Wicked, A Real Pain, The Substance, and Challengers. The first four are probably all likely Best Picture nominees that should get in a weaker, comedy musical. For the Globes are usually a little bit weaker than drama. Not necessarily the case this year, but the top four are pretty solid. Then in my fifth slot, I put in The Substance. I'm a really big believer in The Substance for the Golden Globes. You'll see it pop up multiple times. I think the Globes love the kind of cool indie movie of the year, whether it was Past Lives last year or Saltburn the year before that, or even Promising Young Woman a couple of years before that. The kind of maybe earlier released cool indie movie of the year usually gets rewarded. And this year, I think it is The Substance. Did really well at the box office, had memes already. It has entered the kind of lexicon, I think, wider culture than just movie culture versus a movie like Blitz, for example, that has a really muted response. Not to say it's competing in this category, but maybe another potential competitor like Saturday Night hasn't really entered into the culture in terms of critic lists, in terms of box office, in terms of internet chatter. The Substance has, and I think the fact that it's also being distributed by Mubi, which has done well with the Golden Globes in particular, just makes it all the more likely. So I'm pretty confident actually that The Substance gets in here. And then in my final spot, I went with Challengers, just because I think it is going to have some support from the critics, as well as it being almost a classic Golden Globes movie in that it is still kind of a level above just mainstream movies. It's not a big blockbuster like Twisters. It was released earlier in the year, yes, but it's movie stars. It's an auteur director. It's, glossy, and it's a little bit trashy in some of its material, but the kind of production level and the production value is so high that it makes it seem more like it's a prestige film. And I do think they're going to nominate someone like Zendaya in Challengers, or maybe even Josh O'Connor for the movie. So I do think that it will ultimately resonate and get a couple nominations for being well seen and being just like a glossy version of movies that they wouldn't admit that they liked, but they actually do. Then in the Best Actor, Comedy, or Musical category, I have Jesse Eisenberg for A Real Pain, Glen Powell for Hit Man, Sebastian Stan for A Different Man, Michael Keaton for Beetlejuice, Gabriel LaBelle for Saturday Night, and Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool and Wolverine. A really fun category because none of these actors are probably going to get nominated at the Oscars. I have Jesse Eisenberg here just because he's the director of A Real Pain and the star, so he's been doing a lot of campaigning for a movie I expect to be well-liked and nominated in the Best Film, Comedy, Musical category. Then I have Glen Powell for Hit Man. It's a great movie star performance. It is the kind of year of Glen Powell with Anyone But You, doing really well at the Christmas box office last year, leading into January. Then he has Hit Man, a big Netflix hit. Then he has Twisters, although I went with Hit Man ultimately because it's Richard Linklater, so it's a little bit more of a prestige movie, a little bit better reviewed than something like Twisters, and also gives him more range and more different characters to play with, having a lot of fun with the movie. Then I went with Sebastian Stan for A Different Man, just because I think A Different Man is a mini cool A24 indie movie of the year. In the same way Nicolas Cage got nominated last year for a Dream Scenario, I think A Different Man is in that similar place, where it's not going to be an Oscar contender, but it's kind of a quirky, interesting idea, indie movie by A24. Nominate the lead performance of that movie. In this case, I think it will be Sebastian Stan. Then I have Michael Keaton in Beetlejuice, because I think they're going to reward Michael Keaton's, return to this beloved character, and it did very well at the box office, so it resonated with a lot of people, and he's just a fun character, and I think people really just like Michael Keaton, and this is a fun character to kind of root for. I have Gabriel LaBelle for Saturday Night, because even though the movie didn't do as well as maybe the filmmakers thought coming out of the fall film festivals, it was maybe considering for Best Picture. I wouldn't really consider it as a Best Picture contender right now. But Gabriel LaBelle I still think can get in because he's playing a famous person in Lorne Michaels. The Globes do like famous people playing famous people, and while Gabriel isn't famous, he is a little bit well known, and I think there's not a lot of competition for him, and Saturday Night will ultimately be a liked, if not beloved, movie. And then in my final prediction, I went with Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool and Wolverine. Went with him over someone like a Hugh Jackman just because Deadpool is his franchise. He's the kind of creative force behind it, frankly. He was also nominated for the first one back in 2016, and this one is even a bigger movie than that in terms of second at the box office of the year. I think they like this character, and I think that they kind of want him to be at the show. They are willing to nominate celebrities, the Golden Globes, just to have them show up at their show. And I think there's going to be an appreciation for his movie star ability to create this massive franchise on his own, really, and now connect it with Marvel and make it the second highest grossing movie of the year for a kind of a classic character. Especially when some of the other contenders are Hugh Grant in a smaller indie movie like Heretic, a horror movie, or even like Jesse Plemons in a smaller anthology movie. They've nominated Wonka and Chalamet in Wonka. They've nominated, Ryan Gosling for Barbie. They're okay with nominating kind of movie star performances in big movies of the year. So that's why I ultimately went with Ryan Reynolds. Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical category, I have Mikey Madison, Anora, Carlos Sofia Gascon for Emilia Pérez, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Demi Moore for The Substance, Zendaya for Challengers, and Amy Adams for Night Bitch. This category is a little bit more self-explanatory. The first two, Mikey Madison and Carlos Sofia Gascon, are the two Oscar frontrunners for the Best Actress category in well-liked movies. Then I have Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, another movie that I think is going to get nominated for Best Picture, and she is the lead of it, and she sings, and she does a fantastic job. Then I have Demi Moore for The Substance, because I believe in The Substance as a real contender here at the Golden Globes, and I think that the text of the movie of it being kind of like a older actress being pushed out of Hollywood, I think is going to resonate with a lot of the Globes voters, and that comeback narrative of we haven't nominated Demi in many years. I don't think she's ever been nominated for a Golden Globe, actually. Was a movie star now. This is kind of her big comeback return in this great role. It's very revealing. She does a fantastic job. So I think they're going to like The Substance. I think they're going to like the comeback factor of Demi. And then I had Zendaya in Challengers. I think it's a movie star role. I think the fact that the movie made a decent amount of money based on the fact that Zendaya was the poster. I mean, it's her face on the poster. There'll be an appreciation for that. And they're going to want one of the, most promising and most well-liked young movie stars on the planet to be at their award show. That always helps. So I think Zendaya gets in. And then my final pick, I did go with Amy Adams for Night Bitch because there wasn't a lot of competition. I mean, I could have gone with someone like June Squibb in Thelma, which, while it was pretty good for an independent movie at the box office, still wasn't well seen and isn't of the level of something like Night Bitch in terms of production value, in terms of campaigning. And I do think that this will be kind of an Ana de Armas in Blonde type of a situation where maybe not a lot of people love the movie, but I think everyone will love the performance and appreciate just how brave she was with the weight gain, with the fact that she has to be so committed to believing that she's turning into a dog. There is a fact that I think I like the movie, frankly, and I think the success of the movie is based on her performance, and she has to do a lot of the heavy lifting and the weirdness. So I think it will be seen as a really brave performance. I think Amy Adams will get the nod because of that. Then in the Best Supporting Actor category, I have Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain, Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, Denzel Washington in Gladiator 2, Clarence Macklin for Sing Sing, Yura Borisov for Anora, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. My top four, I think, are likely Oscar nominees, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. Then my fifth pick, I went with Yura Borisov for Anora because I think Anora will be a well-liked movie, and oftentimes we see well-liked movies overperform at the Golden Globes. So, Jamie Dornan will get in for Belfast along with Ciarán Hinds, or Barry Keoghan will get nominated alongside Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin. So usually they overperform, particularly in acting categories, and I do think Yura Borisov is key to the success of Anora working. So I think he gets in. And then I went with Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice because I think they're going to appreciate the transformation that he goes, playing a real-life person. I think they're going to just like Jeremy Strong as an actor. We saw him win on the TV side for Succession and then nominated again. Didn't win for the second time, but won for the first time. So we know that there's an appreciation for him here. I think they're going to see this movie because they're going to nominate Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. So if you've seen The Apprentice, I think most people come out of it going, wow, Jeremy Strong's maybe the standout. is in a lot of the movie, does really give an empathetic performance. And, I was looking at some of my other contenders and I went, Stanley Tucci in Conclave I don't think is a showy enough performance. Interestingly enough, I don't think Josh O'Connor in Challengers is necessarily even a showy enough performance. I'm unsure about how that movie will perform overall as well. And then I thought maybe Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown. That's a transformation of a famous person playing a famous person. But the reviews from that movie seem to indicate that it's a little bit more of a chill performance. It's not necessarily as showy. And frankly, music-based movies like Bohemian Rhapsody and Elvis don't get supporting acting nominations historically. I remember predicting Tom Hanks getting in for Elvis, and they really liked that movie. Now you have A Complete Unknown, which I don't think they're going to like as much as Elvis. And so I don't think a supporting performance in a movie that they don't like maybe as much will get in. So I went with ultimately Jeremy Strong and bet on the fact that I think they're going to like Jeremy Strong in particular and how great of a performance he gives. Now my picks for Best Supporting Actress. I have Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Zoe Saldana for Emilia Pérez, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, Margaret Qualley for The Substance, and Ingenue Ellis-Taylor for Nickel Boys. So my first three predictions there are all likely Oscar nominees. Nothing to speak about for that. Then I went with Isabella Rossellini for Conclave because I think this is definitely almost a nomination. I'm almost really confident that this will get in just because I think they're going to really like Conclave. I said at the first video back in October that Conclave is the movie for old people of the year. It's the movie that they're going to really resonate with. We know the Golden Globes, they're a smaller group. They are a little bit older than the Academy. And I think they usually like the kind of older type of movies, and I think Conclave will appreciate that. And Isabella Rossellini is the kind of, has been nominated in 25 years, classical, old Hollywood glamour star that they love and want to celebrate in a movie they really well like. I went with Margaret Qualley as well for The Substance because I really believe in The Substance. I think they're going to want a young, promising movie star that's had a great year this year to be at their award show. And I think that even though she's in the supporting actress category, she really is almost a co-lead of the movie, and they're going to appreciate kind of the whole fact of The Substance. And like I said, I think it's going to be the kind of cool indie movie of the year. And then my final prediction, I went with Ingenue Ellis-Taylor for Nickel Boys because I'm betting on, my predictions to be 100% accurate. I'm not hedging anywhere. I'm predicting Nickel Boys again for Best Film Drama. That means I have to predict it somewhere else because it's only happened once in the 21st century where there was a lone film drama nominee. So I went with supporting actress here for Ingenue Ellis-Taylor, which I absolutely think could happen. I've seen the movie. She gives a very warm, motherly performance. She is in many ways the heart of the movie. I think if you're emotionally moved by the movie, you're connected to her character just because of how intimate and personal it can feel with this very unique point of view with the camera. So I'm ultimately predicting that the Golden Globes are going to try to predict the Oscars, and they're not going to do something weird and different. And right now, I think Ingenue Ellis-Taylor has a stronger chance than some of the other potential supporting actress category, contenders like a Saoirse Ronan for Blitz, for example. Maybe a Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown. I heard she's very good in that movie. But she's maybe not as well known as someone like Ingenue Ellis-Taylor, who is a past nominee. Then for Best Director, my picks are Sean Baker, Anora, Brady Corbett, The Brutalist, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Pérez, Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2, Edward Berger, Conclave, and Coralie Fargeat for The Substance. So the top two are likely Oscar favorites and should get nominated. Then I have Jacques Audiard. I think they'll appreciate the boldness and uniqueness of Emilia Pérez and connect that to the directing. I have Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2 because the Globes will still nominate directors that don't have any acting nominations. So they'll nominate James Cameron for Avatar: The Way of Water, or Sam Mendes for 1917, or Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk. And those are all movies that got directing nominations and had no acting nominations. So they're still willing to do that. I mean, Denis Villeneuve for the first Dune got nominated in director. So I think they're going to want to appreciate Dune Part 2 and just the escalation of everything that was built upon within the first movie. So if they like the first movie, they nominated the first movie, I think they're going to want to nominate Denis here in the slot of, yes, you didn't have any actors nominated, but there was such a technical achievement, we have to give you a nomination here for director. Then I went with Edward Berger for Conclave because it's the opposite side of that coin where The Oscars are totally okay with giving a movie Best Picture and then not nominating their director, like they did with Coda, like they did with Green Book. The Golden Globes aren't like that. If they really like your movie, they're going to nominate your director. Even movies like, Peter Farrelly got nominated for director for Green Book. Aaron Sorkin got nominated for director for Trial of Chicago 7. Both of those men didn't get nominated at the Oscars because the Oscars branch is a little bit more interested in like the visual style versus the writing. Those are more writing-based movies, but still they got nominated at the Golden Globes. I say that all to say I think Conclave will be seen mostly as a writing-based movie versus a directing-based movie, and that won't give them any pause. I think they're going to really like this movie, and still, because they like the movie, nominate the director, nominate Edward Berger. And then finally, my final selection, I did go with Coralie for The Substance, and I went with that for two factors. The first one being I'm betting on The Substance. I really do think it's going to be a well-liked movie here at the Golden Globes. And then also, they've been a little bit more... in recent years, the Globes have been a little bit more interested in nominating female filmmakers. Last year, they nominated two female filmmakers that didn't get nominated at the Oscars. The year before that, they nominated, or a couple of years before that, Maggie Gyllenhaal for The Lost Daughter. She got nominated at the Golden Globes, didn't get nominated at the Oscars. Same thing with Regina King for One Night in Miami. She didn't get nominated at the Oscars, but did at the Golden Globes. They've been a little bit more conscious of trying to nominate female filmmakers. So when it's a choice of this, or like John M. Chu for Wicked, or maybe Steve McQueen for Blitz, or maybe Ramel Ross, or there's a lot of options for potential in terms of this final slot. To me, the one that made the most sense is the female filmmaker aspect, the fact that I'm betting on The Substance, the fact that it is a unique visual world that was created for the movie. I think ultimately there's going to be an appreciation for that there. Best animated film, I have The Wild Robot, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, Flow, and Moana 2. So the top 5 are my Oscar picks. If you want to hear a more in-depth analysis, last week I did a full video on my thoughts, so you can check that out for the best animated category. And then that final pick, I did go with Moana 2 because it is the movie of the moment right now, tearing up the box office. And the Golden Globes are a little bit more mainstream than the Oscars. They're not going to go for just independent movies. They'll nominate the Croods 2 or the Super Mario Brothers movie that don't get nominated at the Oscars. I don't think the Croods 2 did get nominated, but they're a little bit more mainstream with some of their picks. They're okay with nominating something like the Super Mario Brothers just because it's a well-liked kids movie that made a lot of money at the box office, so they're more than okay with nominating Moana 2. My one concern would be the Pharrell Williams movie, Piece by Piece, could get nominated here because the Globes want Pharrell to come to their show. That being said, I do think he's going to get nominated in the Best Song category, so they can almost leave out Piece by Piece here, give it to Moana 2, and then in song, give it to Pharrell to have him show up to the awards. Then in the Best Screenplay category, I have Anora, Conclave, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, Emilia Pérez, and Sing Sing. The top 3 strong Oscar movies in terms of Best Picture, and I think will be well liked at the Golden Globes as well. Then I have then I have A Real Pain, which is a movie that its strength is its script, and I do think will get nominated in many other categories, maybe even win for someone like a Kieran Culkin for supporting actor. Then I have Emilia Pérez because similarly, why I predicted Jacques Audiard for director, I think there's going to be a general appreciation of the boldness, of the uniqueness of the story, and the fact that it's kind of 3 movies in one. I think ultimately there will be appreciation for the directing, but also the uniqueness and the creativity of the idea will be rewarded to the screenplay. And then in my final prediction, I went with Sing Sing over a movie like The Substance, even though I do really like The Substance and its chances. It could definitely get in for a screenplay. Ultimately, I went with Sing Sing because I have it a little bit higher in terms of what I think will be well-liked versus The Substance, where the Oscars, for example, original screenplay category, they love the kind of independent, the weird movies with the unique ideas. The Globes are, the screenplay category is less so that. It's more so what are the top 5, top 6 most well-liked movies. They're okay with nominating kind of more serious scripts, emotional scripts rather than just unique ideas. So I think Sing Sing's a little bit of a stronger movie than The Substance for the Globes, so I have it in here. Then the best score category, I have Conclave, Dune Part 2, The Brutalist, The Wild Robot, Challengers, and Emilia Pérez. The top 4, I think, get in at the Oscars. Good mix of past nominees and favorites that they like, as well as some animated movies. Then I went with Challengers in my 5th spot because they love Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. They were nominated for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in 2011 and Gone Girl in 2014. Both of those nominees happened at the Golden Globes, but they didn't happen at the Oscars. Indicates to me that the Globes like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross even more so than the Oscars. So the fact that Challengers is a movie that they're going to be seeing, because I think it's going to get nominated, Zendaya, maybe Josh O'Connor in for comedy or musical. So I know that they're seeing the movie, and if you've seen the movie, the score is in your face. It's propulsive. It sometimes takes over scenes. It's very unique. It's very different. So it definitely stands out. And I think people will think about to remember the score for a movie that I think they'll be pretty positive towards in terms of a nomination. And then my final pick, I went with Emilia Pérez just because I wanted to nominate this movie or Wicked, and because I wanted to nominate a musical that is well liked in the score category. I think Emilia Pérez is slightly more well liked than Wicked. That's why I went with it there. Then Best Original Song, I have from Emilia Pérez, El Mal, Mi Camino from Emilia Pérez as well, Piece by Piece from Piece by Piece, Kiss the Sky from The Wild Robot, Ain't No Love in Oklahoma from Twisters, and I Always Wanted to Be a Brother from Mufasa the Lion King. The first two songs here from Emilia Pérez, a well-liked movie, unique in that one's a rap ballad and one's a traditional maybe Selena Gomez pop song. I think they're not going to nominate Selena Gomez in Best Supporting Actress because they can nominate her for song and still have her come to the award show, and she'll be there just because Emilia Pérez is well-liked. Then I have Piece by Piece because I mentioned earlier, I think they just want Pharrell Williams to come. I mean, this is a group that's nominated songs by Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen in movies we know they didn't like just because they wanted the celebrities to come to the show. So I think they're more than okay with nominating Pharrell in a pretty good movie, albeit. Then I have Kiss the Sky from The Wild Robot because they like animated movies, particularly in this category. Most recently, Peaches last year from the Super Mario Brothers movie, the Toy Story 4 song, Remember Me from Coco, Frozen 2, Into the Unknown got nominated. So animated movies frequently get nominated at the Globes in this category. So I wanted to have at least one in there and went with The Wild Robot. Then I went with Ain't No Love in Oklahoma from Twisters because I think they're going to want Luke Combs to show up to the show, and I think the Globes will be a little bit more appreciative of a blockbuster type movie in Twisters, and then say the Oscars. And then my final prediction, I went with I Always Wanted to Be a Brother from Mufasa the Lion King. This is a song written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I think they're going to really appreciate him and want him to appear on their show in the same way they nominated the first Lion King song from the 2019 Lion King because they wanted Beyonce to come to the show. I think this one they're going to want Lin-Manuel Miranda to come on the show. Then a couple more categories here left. Best Film, Non-English Language. I have Emilia Pérez, I'm Still Here, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, All We Imagine as Light, Kneecap, and The Girl with the Needle. Emilia Pérez, well-liked Oscar contender. I'm Still Here, festival favorite from Venice and TIFF with that strong Sony Pictures distribution. Doing all the specialty box office, Seed of the Sacred Fig, and All We Imagine as Light were Cannes releases and well-liked festival movies that played at other festivals. All We Imagine as Light is not going to be competing at the Oscars. That being said, the Golden Globes don't really care about that. They've nominated movies like Past Lives and Portrait of a Lady on Fire in this category, even though they weren't contending for the Oscars. All We Imagine as Light is a well-liked, kind of critically acclaimed movie of the year for an international film. Then I went with Kneecap, which is the Irish submission. Fun movie, easy to like. This group usually likes more European movies as well. Has some fun kind of guest star performances. I think it's a very easy to like movie. And then I went with The Girl with the Needle, which is a well-reviewed movie out of Cannes, but most importantly, it's being distributed by Mubi. Mubi is the same distributor that got Fallen Leaves its couple of nominations last year. Also got Decision to Leave nominated. Those were both movies, something like Decision to Leave, for example, got nominated at the Golden Globes, didn't get nominated at the Oscars. So Mubi is a little bit better at campaigning for the Golden Globes than they do the Oscars. So right now in this final slot, I'm betting on Mubi, and I'm betting on them getting their movie seen. And this movie that they have here is The Girl with the Needle. And then the final category here is the new one that was introduced last year, Best Cinematic and Box Office Achievement, which goes to kind of the box office movies of the year. I have Inside Out 2, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, Gladiator 2, Moana 2, Beetlejuice, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Don't want to talk about too much of these. Essentially what I went with was a mix of the highest grossing movies of the year, as well as movies that are not explicitly for kids, like Despicable Me 4, who knows what's going to happen in this category. It's a new category, so we don't have any kind of history to base it off of. So I just kind of picked the movies that made the most sense to me. So who knows with that category. I'm not too worried about it. But that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and this long one of all my different predictions. As always, my predictions are just in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your comments, or sorry, in the description down below. I'd love to hear your comments. Long video, sorry. Lots of talking going on, but hopefully we'll do well. And on, probably Monday night, Tuesday morning, I'll release a video giving my reactions to the nominations and see how I did. So excited to see how that happens. I hope you stick around. But that's about it. Until next time, stay tuned.